Another day has passed and the industry has once again proven that despite claiming that they are all for the players' best interest, they are in fact not for the players at all, it seems. Obviously, Silksong has ruffled some people the wrong way, kind of exploded and left debris everywhere, and now the industry in general is trying to pick up the pieces since. But now Silksong is being attacked by both developer and players alike, and journalists even are claiming that what Team Cherry has done now with Silksong from its surprise release and more is actually a very bad thing for the video games industry, and that Team Cherry must answer for their crimes. And they're also going as far as saying that people shouldn't reward or even buy this sort of game because it enforces particular behaviors. Let's just get into it firstly from Polygon. The gaming industry deserved more lead time before Silksong. Already it's hostile, but they start their article by saying this. Already no less than 5 games have shifted their planned release dates out of next week, some by months. I really only have just one question. What the hell, you guys? Yeah, they're pissed all right. It really wasn't only them. Necrosoft Games, which is making this Persona-styled RPG called Demon School, also had to delay their game, and how they worded the delay was clearly a jab at Team Cherry. Their publisher, Yisbrid, delayed their game and let's just read what they said here via Blue Sky as it reads. This was not our choice, but we understand why the choice was made. We aren't mad at Yisbrid, but at the situation. Dropping the Grand Theft Auto of indie games with 2 weeks notice makes everyone freak out. Yisbrid is being a good partner and paying for the delay. We're sorry this is happening. And as you can see in that same statement, Necrosoft Games calls Silksong's surprise release date crueler still that we should find out with such short notice. Yeah, they're not happy that Team Cherry did what they did with Silksong's release, alright. Polygon also had this big paragraph, which I'll put on screen here for you. I won't read it all, but to paraphrase, basically, they're also really mad at Silksong, because Polygon needs to plan each month to allocate which journalists and such will cover which games for the month based on, user interest, I guess. But with Silksong dropping the way that it did, it kind of put a wrench in their system. But to be honest with you, a game like Silksong dropping kind of raises all ships if I'm being real. Because when a big game drops, engagement goes up for, well, everyone really. Meaning that more people will be looking for reviews and guides and let's plays and walkthroughs and opinion pieces and lore videos. And even more, like this video for example that you're watching right now, that will fall into that category too. And if you enjoy the content, please consider doing all the YouTube stuff such as subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a comment. It helps like crazy, thank you. But that's what I mean by Silksong raising all the tides, because it has. It's a blessing for everyone to have such a big game and story drop the way that it has. I mean, you would be an idiot to complain about it otherwise. And for media websites especially, a game like Silksong is like pure booger sugar, if you will, for them too. Because it's the sort of game that people will want to find all the mask shards, every power to unlock, every boss fight, every upgrade. Perfect. Now just go and make guides for that. Now you got a strong foundation of content for people who either play Silksong now or later on in the future, but I guess they'll still complain either way. But then Polygon says this: of course Team Cherry is well within its rights to do what it wants with its new game, and given the buzz around Silksong, no matter how or when it comes out, there's almost no chance this thing doesn't light up the charts. But in the years since Hollow Knight first broke indie game containment, arguably revitalizing an entire subgenre, and not so arguably inspiring countless clones, not to mention literally millions of fans, Team Cherry attained great power. Now here's one for the class. What's the other half of that phrase? They're pulling the Uncle Ben Spider-Man quote. That Team Cherry has great power, but doesn't seem to realize that also means they have great responsibility too. I mean, fair enough, but you proved why Silksong was needed yourself, Polygon. You said it right there in the paragraph that Hollow Knight before it revitalized an entire subgenre of indie games with Metroidvanias. And then you tell me, isn't that a good thing? That a game like this would come out and will undoubtedly then get people to seek out similar experiences to it as well? Who knows? Maybe they'll go buy and play Hollow Knight 1. Maybe they'll play Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree, which is also a very good game that came out this year too. The point is that, like I said, games like this raise all tides or ships, or however the saying goes. I don't know. It's healthy for the industry is what I I mean. Well, I guess not the competition in a way, but hey, that's what great products do in the end, right? No matter where they come from. They make people pay attention. But this isn't even the most of what's happening with Silksong. No. It keeps going. You had this Twitch streamer which said this: I can't be the only person who thinks it's kind of effed up for Silksong to reveal its release date so late. Like, man, you're indie developers. You should understand the struggle that studios go through. But that's not really their job. Plenty of games get announced and released the same day and nobody bats an eye. Didn't Oblivion Remastered get announced and released the exact same day by Bethesda earlier this year? Yeah, they just shadow dropped a huge open world RPG on people and it did crazy numbers. It's called marketing. It works. You hype people up and then announce something, and then by jangling it in front of them like keys, they end up buying it. Sure, their competitors might suffer, but ultimately aren't video games also about competition in a way too? It's always been about making your game so good that people have to buy it, that they have to drop what they're doing because your game is now out. Silksong is exactly that. I actually guarantee that many people dropped whatever it was that they were playing in order to play Silksong. And unfortunately, that's going to happen. It's not exactly, unique to Silksong. That happens to many other games too, but hype is hype for a reason. If Team Cherry announced Silksong's release date 2 months ago or something, sure, it would have been hype still. But the way that they announced it here is why it is such a big deal. Because they came out after years of silence and went, here's a new trailer. By the way, we're coming out very soon. See you then. And then boom, they capitalized on the hype. People went bananas and the rest is history. This would be like some band being, mad that another band shadow dropped their new single. Don't get mad about it. Just get better. As Grum showed here, Oblivion did this too, Apex Legends as well, Hi-Fi Rush, and now Silksong. It works, guys. It's called capitalizing on hype. It makes sense. Getting angry about it just shows that you're jealous more than really anything else. Then that same Twitch streamer I showed before, someone would comment on their post and say this: which studio will be brave enough to say Silksong can suck my balls? We're not moving. To which they said, I'd pirate Silksong and buy 10 copies of whatever game does that. Wow, so edgy. Pirating a $20 game because your butt hurt is really going to do some damage. And speaking of actual pirates, as seen here from PC Gamer, the actual internet pirates of the world are encouraging each other to not pirate the game and actually support it instead, as one pirate said via Reddit. I think I'm just gonna buy this one. It's only $20 and I really enjoyed Hollow Knight. I'm sure I won't be mad about spending the money on this one. Good lord, that's what it takes for people to not pirate these days. Well, at least they're buying it, I guess. But you also have posts such as this on Reddit where another pirate tells others, yeah guys, maybe we shouldn't pirate this one, which is kind of crazy that your game is so good that even the cheapest of the cheapskates are now opening their wallets to buy it. Like, sure, they'll pirate these games, but Silksong, maybe this one time they'll pay for their entertainment, I guess. But then again, maybe the industry just dislikes Silksong because it does the one thing that many people in the industry genuinely do not like, which is over-delivering. It actually reminds me of Destiny 2, which is a game franchise that has constantly wowed and also disappointed its fans with seemingly every single release that they've ever done. And it also reminds me when Justin Truman, that's this guy here on screen, who funnily enough, by the way, is now Bungie's new CEO after Pete Parsons left, was the guy who actually coined the term "don't over-deliver." Yeah, I know. I guess we'll see if, he learned from his mistakes, I guess. But anyway, as seen here from Forbes all the way back in 2023, Bungie and Destiny were constantly at odds with the players and the mantra of over-delivering content. Okay, what does that even mean? As Justin Truman said before he became CEO at the Game Developers Conference once, but at the same time, and this is why this lesson is so painful, so much of quality and delight in our craft comes from over-delivery, from giving folks stuff and beyond what they expected. We still want that. We still want to surprise and delight and sometimes overwhelm our players. But we need to be mindful of the patterns and the implied future commitments we've set for ourselves each time. Justin continues, this is tough and this is the one honestly we're still grappling the hardest with. It is hard to tell a team that has extra cycles and energy and wants to do something amazing that totally would be amazing and awesome for the game to tell them we should not ship this because it is an over delivery story that will set us up for failure on future trains. Well, okay, so what Justin Truman admitted to there with Destiny, and this does tie to Silksong, trust me, is that by not over-delivering, by withholding content that could have been made in the next content cycle, that Bungie did that on purpose so players wouldn't expect more from them for future expansions. And like Justin admitted, it wasn't that the developers couldn't deliver the content. They could. He even said they had the extra energy and the cycle to do it. But instead, it was their leadership that didn't want to because they could shave off parts of whatever expansion they had at the time to then piecemeal it for future money and installments. And how did that work out for Bungie? Terribly. They actually faced mass layoffs a year back, which was considered unheard of at Bungie, yet it happened because they missed their sales targets. And their newest expansion, Edge of Fate, was down nearly 50% and then some in terms of pre-orders, and player numbers are also in the dumps, but that's what Bungie wanted, I guess. They wanted to not over-deliver, and by not over-delivering, which, let's be real, would simply be considered standard delivering like 10 years ago maybe, they instead drip-fed content, and then overcharged for it constantly to keep players' wallets and their engagement intact. And it has backfired on them. I stopped playing Destiny 2. You could buy multiple copies of Silksong for the price of a single expansion of Destiny 2, and even then you still probably couldn't play the game because you're missing the other expansions. I mean, Destiny 2 even has armor bundles that are worth more than Silksong in its entirety, so no wonder the developers and the gaming journalists don't seem to like Silksong, because it is, in their opinion, over-delivering with, again, if Silksong were to release as it was right now, let's say maybe 10 years ago, we would all just consider it to be a normal standard release and there would be zero controversy. But no, not these days. Games are constantly cutting themselves up into smaller pieces, especially in AAA, because why give you 100% of the content for the money that you just spent on it when they can just cut off 10% of the content here, 20% off this expansion, maybe 5% off this one too, and then they can make a season out of all that meager content and then trick you into buying a battle pass as well, and then drip feeding you that content every week in with like recorded voice lines, I guess, if that's enough to keep you just invested in the story to come back next week for your next slop meal. This model isn't working. People are sick and tired of this way of playing their video games. It's why I tend to just steer clear of almost every game that pushes this sort of nonsense, because it's just not for me. Silksong doesn't even ask you to connect to the internet to authenticate it. I mean, imagine that. Most single player games these days, from AAA studios at least, they want you to sign in to an external account so they can collect your information. So it's really no wonder why they don't want you to buy Silksong or play it or praise it or expect experiences to be like it. Because it is, in the opinion of what the industry considers the standard, over-delivering. You're getting a whole game, a whole kingdom with multiple pathways to explore and 40 or so bosses, all these tools and gadgets. Roughly about 200 enemy types in total, plus it all runs at launch flawlessly and also doesn't ask you to open your wallet every 5 minutes. Nope, sorry. It's over-delivery, guys. This is just not good, apparently. How could Team Cherry do this to the industry, setting these unrealistic standards, which are not unrealistic, by the way? They were actually the industry standards a few years ago, but please ignore that and just eat the slop instead. No. Silksong is what people want. Clair Obscur is also what people want. They just want games that are worth the price that they're paying. They don't want to be nickeled and dimed all the time. I hate what a lot of gaming has become. Again, it's why I walked away from Destiny, because really, what's the point of playing a game like that anymore? Now, in their newest content, your gear doesn't even matter because everything just sunsets every 6 months anyway. So what's the point? These games in AAA at least are just, they're being designed honestly as hamster wheels. They're just there to keep you running endlessly, grinding constantly, just one more bounty mission, just one more weekly challenge, and then you'll get that weapon or armor piece or upgrade that you need so badly, only until the next season or expansion launches, and then everything you have is practically worthless. And now you've wasted your time, but hey, at least the company's metrics and their bank account looks good, right? I actually think one of the best things you can genuinely do these days is to just buck the trend, so to speak. Stop playing all of these always online games constantly. I mean, they're not meant to fulfill you. They just want your money and your time. Two things you can't get back from these companies anyways, and you should instead play more single player games. Because mark my words, come awards time this year, it'll be between Silksong and Clair Obscur for pretty much everything. I frankly don't see any other game getting anything award-wise from these two unless the category is something like best multiplayer, which obviously neither game could apply to, I guess, but Silksong is not over delivery. It should be the standard. Another user on Blue Sky cried about Silksong too. Here's what they said. As developers of a very famous and successful game, they have the responsibility to know how much their follow-up is eagerly anticipated, and they should be expecting that its release will overshadow other releases in the indie space. Therefore, they should have, I don't know, maybe announced the day in June at least. No, they have no reason to adhere to some weird code or mantra that you think is right. They're free to do as they please. But then again, this same user as seen here has been playing Silksong and has nothing to say but negative things about it. They think the game's too hard, it's mentally draining, and they're not having a lot of fun. You ask me, it's a skill issue is all I gotta say to people like this. Just get good and stop complaining. But the stupidity doesn't end there, because the same user would then say this. By the way, Team Cherry absolutely had the responsibility of giving a heads up about the release of Silksong and accommodating other indie developers in regards to it. Art isn't made in a vacuum. And as indie developers, they absolutely should know how hard it is for other indie devs to be. If the industry listened to people like this, you would have 12 games maybe total released every calendar year. Because then nobody is allowed to release in the same window as someone else. Oh, you want to release your indie game on this day? Sorry, that day's already taken. And so's the whole month or the whole year. You have already been booked because we don't want to step on anyone's toes. Yeah, no, that's not how any of this works, but their stupidity then continues with this. Team Cherry isn't a corporate team. They're indie. They should care about the success of their peers in a competitive space. If they didn't want to care, they should have sold themselves to a bigger game corporation. If they want to be indie, they can't not care about community. Ah yes, Giga Brain move there. Team Cherry is so successful and they're such a threat that the actual best case scenario in this person's head is to sell themselves to someone like Activision instead. You ask me, this person should never give advice on games or business or anything ever again. They should probably just be mandated to wear a Hannibal Lecter mask, and it should only be removed to eat food or drink water with opinions as stupid as these. Then you had Joseph Morin, who runs a gaming podcast, who said this via Twitter. I think Silksong's 2-week PR push has done some damage to other indie studios. I don't think Team Cherry thought about the impact this game would have on other indies and their marketing. I think that's a bummer that I hope isn't replicated, to be honest. Games release all the time, dude. Literally every single day. Big games will come out too. It's just how it is. Frankly, it just kind of sounds like people are mad that the game is making money and they aren't. Then you have this post here where apparently indie developers are no longer comfortable pricing their games thanks to Silksong. I covered something similar in my previous video, but to reiterate, just price your game how you think it should cost. Don't worry about Silksong. If people like the game, they'll buy it. As simple as that. At best, what you could probably do, I guess, is maybe release a demo beforehand so people can judge the game for themselves before they buy it. But then you had this developer who would talk about sales prices and Silksong being $20. Here's what they said. I don't think it is a particularly hot take, but indie games should cost more and indies can't take the risk to do so. The fact that the people working on no next to no budget have to basically give their game away or else and people will still complain about the price sucks. Again, nobody is telling you to not price your game $20 or $30. That's up to you. The price thing really starts to matter once we start reaching $50 to maybe $80 per game, depending on what's at offer, I guess. And since most indie games are short and can be done fast, I think $25 is a sweet spot for me personally. But once you get close to the whole $40 mark, I'm then going to expect something at least AA, maybe not indie. But again, this mostly just sounds like people who are angry at Silksong for being $20 again. And then Kerbrutus, who's a friend of the channel, replied to a guy complaining about Silksong being too cheap, to which he said, get good and start lowering the prices. And yeah, basically that. Like I said in other videos, people are already strained for money due to everything that isn't video games. It's not their concern to leverage or barter you for the price of your product. They already have bills to pay and more. You either got to charge less if your game isn't of a, quality standard, or I guess be confident enough that your game is so amazing that people have to buy it at $80 or whatever it is that you're charging for it. But holding your belly and crying won't really solve anything because it never has, and trying to form a pity party will just make people just kind of recoil in the sight of you, and I mean, who can blame them? And here's Cabritas again, showing updated numbers for Silksong on Steam and poking fun at gaming journalists and developers who are mad about Silksong's success and price. Look, these people can try all they want to sway others from buying Silksong, claim that it's too cheap, it's not fair, or buying it will harm the industry, which in turn means that they're subconsciously trying to make you not buy the game to prove their point, but it really won't work. People are tired, man. They're tired of the BS in the industry. They're tired of the BS in the world too, just in general. And all they really want is a good game that runs well at release, that respects their time and money, and gives them the escapism that they want. If that somehow offends you on any level, the problem is really not Silksong, and it's likely you. Team Cherry does not owe anyone an apology for what they did here, because if any one of these people and more that were complaining in this video were also in the position of Team Cherry, they would be totally fine with the release date and would be laughing their way to the bank and wouldn't care at all, and you know it. It's simply jealousy is what it always is, and trying to desperately contain a status quo where they want you to pay more for less and never complain about it. But as this year has proved with game prices, the overwhelming majority are not okay with it. And if your only solution to the problem is to screech and yell at people, you lost the plot already a long time ago. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Is Silksong wrong for any of this, or are the developers? Thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.